headed, Schefty? You got a meeting, big-time meeting? It looks like a...
You know what? Just running around the day before I leave for Detroit, about 10,000 things going on, and...
Oh, we're wasting the time. Yeah, got it. Okay.
All
So,
good.
hey, did you write the headline of the column? Who writes the title of the column? Because we were hoping you would maybe go into third-person Schefty this week.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would never use third person. In fact, Dane Beavers is the editor at ESPN, did a great job putting everything together, and he sent me like a proposed lead to the column that he wrote. You know, like, here's what I'm here. I'm like, I will never use the word I. I can't stand it in writing. So let's take any of that out. Like, I will be in Detroit. No. The ESPN and its draft team will be in Detroit.
Oh, yeah. Team guy. Team guy. Humble. We appreciate that out of you.
That, Schefty.
Colin, what is Adam Schefter? Team guy.
Yeah, so if you want to blame somebody, blame Dane for that, but that's him, not me, and he did a great job with this.
I mean, Dane Beavers has got the look of so much moxie.
Wow.
Yeah, Dane, that baby Dane.
Okay, Beavers.
That's good Beavers right here.
All right, leave it to Beavers.
Hey, you're damn right, leave it to Beavers.
I love the attention going where it belongs to the people who don't get a lot of attention.
Beavers,
like Dane
Beavers, Beavers. Great work out there, Beavers. All right, let's move into this. In that article that was titled After You, By You, you basically talked about how Minnesota is trading or attempting to trade up to number 3 overall to draft, I believe, Drake Maye in there. Now, I wasn't able to read the entire thing. Ty did. I just kind of got a transcription through the wonderful brain that is his, but that's big news, it feels like. So Minnesota's the team that is most actively trying to move up because we've heard about the Giants. We've heard about a couple other teams. It's Minnesota trying to go get a quarterback, and if it's Drake Maye, that makes sense because they got Sam Darnold for the year. Is that what you're hearing, or how do we get to this information, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, here's where we're at, essentially. New England's going to listen to teams that call. The two teams, in my mind, that I've been able to ascertain that have been the most active calling up to number 3 have been the Minnesota Vikings, number 1, and I think second, if we're going to quantify it, is the New York Giants. Those are the two teams that have expressed an interest in moving up to number 3. Now, whether they can get up to number 3 is a whole other issue. Whether New England is willing to go back is a whole other issue. It's going to take a lot. And so I don't know ultimately that New England is going to move off that pick. New England may just stay right where it is. And so if you're the Vikings, and I also think, by the way, yes, I said Drake Maye, but I also think that in a perfect world, the Vikings would have a high degree of interest, as would other teams, in Jaden Daniels. But I still think, as we talked about, that Jaden Daniels is the favorite to be number 2. So if Daniels goes number two, obviously he's not going 3. If he goes to 3, the price of 3 goes up a lot if the Commanders decide not to take that pick. But I think the Commanders, in the end, will opt for Daniels. That's my read on it. And if they do, then I think we got the Vikings, who have expressed the most interest in coming up to number 3. The Giants have expressed some as well. And the Patriots very likely are possible to just sit where they're at and pick from number 3.
I think the last time we chatted with you, you said there's a lot of maneuvering with that number 2 overall pick. There you said you think Daniels goes number 2. Then at the end you said you still think Commanders go with Daniels at 2. Is that a interesting situation? Is that kind of cemented itself? Or what do you
I think here's the thing. I think we saw the agent tweet about it last week, right? Not being particularly pleased that it was 4 quarterbacks in, that Jaden Daniels didn't have more face time with the Commanders. But the fact of the matter is this is the draft. This is not free agency. You know, Jaden Daniels is going to go where he's drafted, and he's going to be happy about it. And if it is, in fact, Washington that drafts him, then I think Jaden Daniels is going to be perfectly content to go to Washington and be the face of the franchise and take over as the quarterback of the Commanders. And that's the way I continue to think it's trending to go. Now, the Commanders have not finalized that decision. Could they change their mind? Sure. Could something happen? Sure. Could a team make a last-minute offer? Sure. Anything's possible. Draft week and things happen. But if you're asking me the most likely scenario is that the Commanders stay at 2 and take Jaden Daniels, in my mind.
Okay, cool. And then the Patriots most likely probably stay at 3 and take their quarterback.
Well, they're less likely to stay. They're going to listen. Well, how about this?
Yeah.
They're more likely to move the pick than the Commanders, but I still think the odds favor them staying where they are. How about that?
Okay, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we're at like 74% probably for the Patriots.
Okay.
78% probably.
Let's say 75% they stay where they. I hate to put percentages on this because
no, but it is. It's just this is to paint a picture. This is to paint a picture. You'd have the Commanders
exactly. I think the Commanders are likely to stay at 2 and pick their quarterback. I think the Patriots are a little less likely than the Commanders to stay at 3, but still more likely than not to make that pick at 3. And it's up to a team this week to change the Patriots' mind, which could happen.
Hey, it's not 100%.
No.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's right.
Not 100%.
You know
what I mean? It's still up in the air. There's a chance you can weasel in there and go, hey, I got a deal for you. Mm-hmm. And then maybe because you fall back, Penix is going to be available. Mm-hmm. So you can still get a great quarterback in Penix. How are we feeling about Penix? The heat about Penix? Because I think the boys mentioned how there's been a couple different reports about where Penix could be. Some people see him as maybe very early. Some people see him maybe drifting back. He was minus 130, I think, to be a first-round draft pick last week. That feels like a hammer down on that particular one from the way I view Michael Penix and how talented he is. What is the sound on Michael Penix, Schefty?
Here's the thing. What's interesting about this, and it's true for all these guys, is the draft experts, the Mel Kipers, the Field Gates of the world, they all have their rankings, and then it's how the coaches and front offices see these guys, the quarterbacks, wide receivers, whoever. And there may be a team out there that loves Michael Penix, and you're starting to hear chatter, whether it's true or not, that the Falcons like him, that the Raiders like him. The Seahawks offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, coached him last year. The Seahawks offensive line coach was in Washington last year. They're very familiar. I don't think the medicals with Michael Penix Jr. are as much of an issue as people thought they would be. The teams that I've spoken to feel pretty good about where he's at. He's basically on teams' boards. They haven't taken him off. They haven't adjusted. There are some guys that have medical question marks. Michael Penix, surprisingly, is not one that I'm hearing about. So he's got a basic clean bill of health for a lot of teams. And, there's only so many quarterbacks to go around. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. And so all those elements together tell me that my suspicion is that he's got a real chance to go in round 1. I think that that's a strong possibility.
I think so, yeah. Just from watching him play football, especially with the pro style that Washington was in facets. I'm not saying the entire thing was pro style, but they had facets of the offense that was pro style, and the way they ran their day-to-day under DeBoer, very professional style. He played a lot of football, had a lot of success, and then he runs a 4.4. It's like, bill of health, I think is good. Yeah. If you can get your knees.
Pat, if it weren't for the 2 ACLs in the shoulders, we might be talking about him as a top 10. And now when you talk to these teams, the teams that I've spoken to have not put a red flag on him medically. They don't sound concerned about the knees right now. Now, the injury history is what it is, but the teams I've spoken to do not sound overly alarmed by where he's at medically right now.
Him and Odunze. I mean, when was the last time you thought about the Roman Empire or whatever? It's like Penix was, as soon as he saw one-on-one, played it on, which I loved, because that's an NFL. That's old school NFL stuff. Okay, my guy is better than your guy. It's one-on-one. We have a run play right now. Who cares? I'm going right to my guy. I love that run Washington had. They ran into a buzzsaw that is at, that one school. Yeah. Where is it?
Up north.
In Ann Arbor.
All right, Schefty. Yeah. Ty has a question for you, brother.
Yeah, Schefty, another guy who you kind of intimated that could potentially go in the first round, Bo Nix. Early on, it was like, hey, there's a chance that he's going to go in the first round and he'll be in part of this run. And then it's kind of slipped away. But you mentioned something with the Rams, that Les Snead was a GA at Auburn while Bo Nix's dad played quarterback there. So there was maybe a chance that Bo Nix goes at 19 because of that relationship. Do you think it's a certainty at this point that Bo Nix is probably going to be a first-round pick as well?
Again, I view Penix and Nix as ones. I do.
Okay.
And so I think there's a real possibility. I would almost guarantee we're getting a minimum of 5 quarterbacks in round 1 at some point or another. And then the question is whether the 6th one makes it in. And I would think, like Bo Nix, you mentioned, the Rams general manager, Les Snead, went to school with his father, played or coached at Auburn when Patrick Nix led them to a great season. The Rams, it's an interesting spot. I think they're a sleeper team on a quarterback. I go back to Seattle. Bo Nix visited Seattle, had a great visit there. Just a lot of, talk there. There's talk that Denver could move back in the round and take Bo Nix at some point in time later on in round 1. And so there's just too many teams that need quarterbacks in my mind, the Raiders. There's too many teams that need them and not enough of them, which is why, in my mind, we're getting a minimum of 5 in round 1 and probably 6.
Early, too? Because, normally in these drafts, when there's a run on things, teams get scared that they're going to lose out because there's only so many. Like a wide receiver a few years back, it was like wide receiver. Oh, shit. You heard some teams go, we got to get up here before they're all gone. Is it going to be like that this draft for a couple different positions?
I would not be surprised. I had one team tell me that they thought that there could be 5 or 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 24 picks. 24, that there could be 6 off the board by then. And so that would not be a surprise in my mind at all. And I can tell you this, all these teams that aren't in the quarterback market, they're like, let's go quarterbacks. They
Jim
want
Harbaugh.
Because every time one of these quarterbacks goes, the team at 19, the team at 20, the team at 21, there's one more player that slides right down to them that they weren't banking on. And so
all those teams. Imagine those teams coming out and being like, Bo Nix is so good.
Tom
just
Brady.
leaking it out. Bo Nix is so good.
Future.
Oh, Penix, what are we talking about? He's Tua, but taller.
Most accurate player.
Oh, what are we even talking about? I mean, that is.
Yeah, that's why when you talk to some front offices, you're right. Like they're like, oh, these guys definitely should be ones. Definitely should be ones.
God. We need 10 of these. You guys haven't talked about the guy out of Dayton yet. This guy can spin it at the University of Dayton. He might sneak up. Connor's got a question for you, Schefty.
Yeah, Schefty, another thing you wrote in your article was that the Cardinals at 4 are also receiving calls, but they're probably not making a move until they're actually on the clock. Assuming assuming that the first 3 go as you think that they will go, or at least is likely to. Are the Vikings probably in the realm of trading up to 4 to get JJ if they miss out on the top 3? And also, is there maybe like a mystery team that might love Marvin Harrison Jr. because his dad played somewhere, and that team might trade up to get him as a wide receiver, to take a wide receiver at 4?
Yeah, did you write about that?
Yeah, any chance there, or is it going to be QB at 4 too?
A good question, Connor. Here's what I would say. The Cardinals' pick is for sale, but no sales are final until they're on the clock. And even then, I think 4 is going to be a tough spot to get to for some teams. I just don't know in the end that Arizona is going to be willing to give up the chance to get the top wide receiver in this draft to move out of that spot to get extra picks. Could it happen? Look, the Cardinals were brilliant last year in the way they manipulated the draft. Monty Ossenfort, their general manager, went from 3 to 12 to 6, got everything he wanted, more picks. It was brilliant. It was great. And they're going to be open to doing the same thing. But let's just assume that it's Minnesota, which is the most likely team in my mind, to trade up. Is Minnesota going to give up all the compensation that it needs to get up to 4 when it might be able to do it at 5? Or, if the Giants aren't going quarterback, then Minnesota might be able to sit where it is. Or if you're worried about a team jumping you and you just want to lock it in, you trade up to Tennessee at 7 or Atlanta at 8, and you go there and you get your quarterback at that spot. That's what Minnesota has to weigh. How high is too high? And there really is no price that's too high if you believe in a quarterback at all. So it's a case where Minnesota's a team to watch. And once the 3 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, which we all expect in whatever order it is, then we start to see who's going to be moving up to number 4 and or 5 or 7 or whatever it is. But somebody's going to try to move up at some point in time.
I'm excited for the Colts to be the ones to do it.
Hell yeah.
Just whenever the clock's getting low, and I think he's getting an update right now from somebody, maybe the wife saying, where are you? Supposed to be somewhere. Yeah, I was driving and I pulled over.
You get some, exactly. I thought you were going to be home here, doing the 1,000 things. Oh, good. We're
yeah, and I just turned on my TV. You're sitting on there. Interesting. From the front of a very public place. There's been people walking behind. Where are you right now?
I'm in front of some drugstore. My wife had me pick up some medication for her, but it's closed. I don't know what the hell it's closed for in the middle of the day on a Monday.
Jeez.
These siestas that are happening. It's moving into some places, lunches or whatever, moving into some spots. We have a couple here in Indianapolis. That was alarming to me, because I just assume all day we're going.
Yeah.
Just businesses. Yeah. Europe, I think they take a break. I think there are some other places they take a break. So just hey, I need to go pick this up. You get there and it's we're not back for another 90 minutes, brother. It's where are you?
I'm on lunch.
I'm eating lunch. Where? Right there? Well, I need 90 minutes. I'm off the clock.
Sorry.
Pharmacies.
The whole store is? Holy
Pharmacies do that. Pharmacies usually take off like either noon to 1 or noon to 2 a lot of the time.
It's a real pain in the ass sometimes.
It's great. But hey, as long as you guys are okay.
Yeah.
Pharmacists were doctors there. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They were doctors there for a few years. That was wild.
A lot of people.
Tone's got a question for you.
Yeah, Schefty.
Last one here, Shefty, before we cause any more problems.
Schefty, in that article today, it talked about how the Chiefs are keeping an eye on wide receiver because of a potential suspension to Rashee Rice. Do we know what that suspension could possibly be? And are they going to have to move up? Or because I saw a couple mocks at 32 going Xavier Worthy or Lad McConkey or A.D. Mitchell, one of those guys. Are they going to move up or are they going to sit? Are they cool with sitting where they're at?
To combine your question with Connor's question before, I think we haven't heard yet about a team that is going to make a big play to move up for a wide receiver. And I just think that with all the wide receiver talent, at some point in this draft, it wouldn't be a surprise. I don't know whether it's Kansas City or somebody else, but somebody may covet one of these wide receivers, whether it's the top 3 that everybody seems to love, or whether it's some of the other guys that are considered first-round picks. Now, with the Chiefs, we don't know exactly when any discipline for Rashee Rice would kick in. We don't know how long it's going to be, but I think everybody across the league is operating under the assumption that it's going to be multiple games that he's going to face at some point in time. And the question is when that would come down, how the legal process plays itself out. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, but clearly there's going to be discipline ahead for him from the NFL. And the Chiefs would have been in the wide receiver market anyway prior to any issues with Rice. They had receivers that led the league in drops last year. They needed more help. They added Hollywood Brown. Still could use more help. And they also, by the way, could use a left tackle. They don't really have somebody that they can rely on right now. So even though they're the defending world champs, they've got some holes that they really do have to address this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wide receiver, offensive line. They also could use some help along the defensive line.
Hey, first night there, draft spectacular. It's going to be a Zambelli fireworks show, huh? Is that what you're expecting?
Look, the draft is always fun, and I said this to you on Friday. I love Mel saying, it's the most unpredictable. Every draft, let's be very clear.
Right.
Next year's draft is going to be unpredictable.
Okay,
the year after, it's going to be unpredictable. Every draft is unpredictable.
Hey, we appreciate the hell out of you, Schefty. Get on with your day. Safe travels to Detroit. We'll see you up there.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys with your friend Bill Belichick. That'll be fun.
How about that? Does he hate you? You guys get along or no?
We get along well.
He didn't send you a lose my number, bro?
No, he's never told me that, but maybe he feels that sometimes.